Can you imagine juice boxes changing the lives of children? Hi, I'm Veronika, and I'd love to share with you a little bit of my story. Now, think back to 2003, 4, 5. What were you up to? Well, my parents used to push me around town in a stroller. This meant I was able to see under many bushes, and under those bushes were always pop cans. I would then make my parents stop and pick up the pop cans. That's how I started collecting empty recyclable beverage containers. My Opa has been a long-time volunteer with Hope Haven Canada and collecting wheelchairs. My mom used to work full-time, so that meant I got to spend the days with my Opa and Oma. One of the things I got to help with was collecting wheelchairs with my Opa. In grade 1, I was never impressed how there was always juice boxes in the garbage can, because I knew they were each worth 5 cents. So I started collecting them from my class, and with the money I received, I gave to my Opa. My grade 2 teacher loved what I was doing in grade 1, so she decided that the whole school should start donating their empty recyclable beverage containers to me for wheelchairs in Guatemala. By the second term of grade 2, I had over 20 classes donating. Now, each Friday afternoon, 4 of my friends and my little sister go around to all the classrooms and collect the empty recyclable beverage containers. We then take the bottles to our local regional recycling depot. Let's take a minute to look at what happens to our bottles once we drop them off. Juice boxes are divided into 3 different materials: the paper pulp, aluminum lining, and plastic coating. The paper pulp is used to make cardboard boxes and toilet paper. Pop cans are crushed and baled into large transportation bales. Can you believe that each bale weighs over 20 tons and contains 1.2 million cans? Now that is what I call a big bale. In just over 60 days after enjoying your pop, that can is recycled, refilled, and back on the shelf. Clear plastic bottles are also baled and shredded into plastic flakes. The plastic flakes are used to make bottles from motor oil and bleach. Our goal is $115, or 2,300 juice boxes, which is needed to sponsor 1 wheelchair in Guatemala. Now you see up here, it shows juice boxes equal a wheelchair. No, I do not craft a wheelchair out of juice boxes. I just use the money from the recycling to give to Hope Haven Canada for wheelchairs. And yes, I have been asked that many times. So once we raise the money, I give it to my Opa, who's a volunteer with Hope Haven Canada. Hope Haven Canada is an organization that collects our wheelchairs, which are usually going off to our dumps. They build houses for families who live under tarps, work with orphanages, and much more. With donations they receive, volunteers load wheelchairs into a container and ship them by boat to Guatemala. Wheelchair-bound Guatemalans have been taught how to repair the wheelchairs. Then, groups in Canada and the US go down to Guatemala and distribute the wheelchairs. I've continued through grade 3, 4, and 5 with the help of my friends. This year, I'm in grade 6, and the Juice Box Recycling Program is still going strong and has sponsored over 50 wheelchairs for children in Guatemala. For the first time in my life, from November 23 to 30th, 2013, I had the amazing experience of visiting Guatemala, which is in Central America. I much prefer their climate. They have a nice, dry, and warm climate. We, here on the West Coast, have rain as our main weather condition. So why not call us the Wet Coast? Did you know that British Columbia is 10 times bigger than Guatemala, but we only have a quarter of their population? I went to see what lives I had changed through my school, and I got to see that by volunteering at Camp Guatemala. This is a camp for kids who have disabilities. We did things that they could do by themselves or with our help, like team cheers, skits, relay races, chapel time, and free time to just hang out and have fun. Each camper got their nursing needs met, wheelchairs fixed, a chance to laugh with the clowns, and to smile and cry tears of joy as they completed camp with good memories. A true inspiration for me at camp was Hema. At the time, she was 6 years old, and she was born with no arms and only one leg. Although her family and peers treat her as if she has no disabilities at all. 3.5 years ago, she received an altered electric wheelchair, which she drives with her foot. At craft time, she sat on the table and did the craft just like everyone else, but with only one foot. I also got to meet 5 of the many children for whom my school has sponsored wheelchairs: Andreas, Gabriel, Karen, Patty, and Roslava. With the help of translators, I was able to explain to the children that my school had paid for their wheelchair. When Roslava understood how she got her life-changing wheelchair, she wrapped her arms around me and said, "Muchas gracias por la silla de ruedas," which means, "Thank you very much for the wheelchair." I also got to visit an orphanage. It was so sad to see how many children had been rejected by their families because of their disabilities or lack of money in the family to care for the children. There was one girl in particular that really got me. At the time, she was the same age as my little sister, 5 years old, but she was the size of a 1-year-old baby. What inspired me was how many nurses went to work each and every day to care for the children. The orphans are all very cute and deserve a good life just like everyone else. I would also like to share with you some personal experiences. This past year, I suffered multiple sports injuries and am temporarily wheelchair-bound. I quickly learned a little bit about how the life of a Guatemalan child in a wheelchair feels. I now understand some of the many emotions they experience. I can sense how they feel left out in many daily activities with their family and friends. I quickly learned how the small gift of a wheelchair can change their life forever, just as it has made my life much easier for me. But just because I started when I was very little, my OPA volunteers for a charity, and my grade 2 teacher helped a lot to get this running through the whole school, does not mean that you can't start recycling. I want to encourage everyone to go home and start recycling your empty recyclable beverage containers for a good cause. Through my juicebox project, I have learned that we are very lucky to have everything we do. I always love the smiles I see in pictures of children who have just received their wheelchairs. And the answer to my original question is yes. Juice boxes can and do change lives.